Call order at 5:33. Any adjustments to the agenda?
I don't have any. Here, we can move this. We didn't want it to, I don't want it to look like you weren't wanting anybody to come.
Closer to the fire.
Smells like celery. Not sure what that is.
No.
I don't have any
No,
adjustments.
okay. So acceptance of minutes of January 20th, 2016.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of January 20th, 2016. I will second that.
All right. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Town meeting warning first.
Okay, so there's a draft in your packet. And I don't think that anything, there are a couple changes to what we went over the last time I gave a draft.
I have two. Is there a reason for that?
Are you guys missing one?
Everybody have one?
You have
Yeah,
one?
I have, yep.
Oh,
Scott's
okay.
got two
I don't know.
also. I have
Must be
two.
next.
Here, hold on. No, I've got two.
You have two?
too. Yep, I've got two.
Oh, I don't know.
Do you
I
need
want
one?
just-
Deb?
Here you go. The one change, Article 5, which relates to the solar or the renewable energy sources. On the previous draft, I had a vote to exempt them, which I had a discussion with the attorney. We already have the exemption. This vote would be to rescind that. So the way that he worded it,
We already have the exemption that was voted on.
right. And I had worded the article the exact same way as we did before, thinking that we were going to say yes or no.
Right.
And what we talked about was if it was to rescind a previous vote, that we should word it to see if the voters of the town of Putney will vote to tax renewable energy sources to the extent allowed by Vermont law. And then in parentheses, if approved, this vote will rescind a vote taken at town meeting March 4th, 2014, when the town voted in Article 7 to exempt from property tax assessment alternative energy sources allowed under 32 VSA 3845. So basically it's the same thing as what was on the, it's just a different wording of it. The intention is, do we want to keep it or do we want to rescind it?
And we're
rescinding the action we took on
Right.
if we
March 4th,
voted to in favor of this.
Right.
Has Vermont statute changed in that
That's what I was
timeframe?
going to ask too.
From 2014 till now?
It has changed. I think the basic change that happened was the size that
Right.
can be
right.
exempted.
And I think
But
as long
yes,
as
it
we
is-
make this clear that we're not, trying to
Why
detract
we're
from
revisiting it.
Right.
Well-
why we're revisiting it and why we're not, that
Yeah.
if you still want to stick solar panels up on your house, you're probably going to be fine.
Right.
But
So
it's
the
more
law
to do with
is
industrial
50
size development.
kilowatts or less are exempt.
Exempt.
Right, it's a size
Automatically.
limit.
Automatically.
Right.
By statute.
Right. So this is an article that I'm not pushing to have on the warning. It's just, it was brought to my attention by the listers that we may want to revisit it because I think that back when it was voted in 2014, we thought that by voting the exemption, we were exempting properties that had alternative energy sources, mostly solar, that's what we have, that were being used solely for the purpose of, and any of the solar arrays or solar, I guess that's how you put it, that were making money, they were selling it or what, that those would not be exempt under this, and they are.
Okay.
They are under what we approved in
Yes.
2014.
Correct.
Right.
But Vermont law allows towns to tax that.
Yes,
It doesn't
if they're over
mandate
50
that they-
kilowatts.
It does not mandate that they tax it. In other words,
It mandates it unless you vote to exempt it.
Okay, okay.
It does.
Yeah.
At what, how do they do that? Is there a tax rate per kilowatt or what are they?
No, it's our regular municipal tax rate. We don't, it would be the value of the
System.
system.
What about depreciation and all that?
I don't know how they value it on the grand list side. I don't know if each year that the value,
Would depreciate.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I don't know that answer to that.
I mean,
The value was set by a formula that the state helped them come up with on how to,
Right, I just
the
suspect
value
this is
of systems.
garner some discussion in directions that,
Yeah, somebody would have to be
Want it.
pretty darn clear on this before we open this can of worms.
and this is not education tax. They will not be billed education tax because that is billed separately by the state. They are being billed for that already. It's a separate rate that the state bills them directly for education. It's like $4 per kilowatt or something like that. So what this would mean would be that there are four properties right now that this would affect. It would equate to about $3,700 in taxes,
An increase
an
of,
increase.
for all four of those
All four of them
facilities.
together.
But any new facilities, i.e. that one that we just didn't comment on,
Mm-hmm.
that would be on Route 5, and the one at Putney School
Mm-hmm.
would, I mean, then we get into also, like, Putney School, tax exempt, same, I mean, Landmark system is maybe over 50 kilowatt, I don't know. That one they just put in. So that complicates that stuff.
Yeah,
a
but
little
that's
further,
for their
too.
own use.
Well,
So that one under this exemption would not be, it would be only the ones that are net metered. Is that one net metered? How do they-
everything's net metered.
There isn't anything that just,
Yeah.
there's,
I mean, you know, unless you're off the grid, you're net metered.
yeah.
In which case
Okay, no,
you're selling it
back into the grid.
exactly. So
That's not one that's
technically,
even on our radar or even been.
I know, and it
Yeah.
wasn't permitted, so and it may not be 50 kilowatts, I don't know. No, I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
No,
I'm just
I-
pointing
yeah, I
out
hear
that there could be complications to this that we aren't aware of.
right,
The only thing that we have to go on here when deciding whether, let's pretend this vote is not even on the table right now. The way it stands right now, we have voted to exempt the alternative energy sources under this statute. So the only thing that we have to go on right now for putting that into the data system of whether they get taxed or not is the Public Service Board paperwork that says if it says they're net metered, they are exempt under this vote, the vote that we had before.
So
So
the
it's
four
pretty much
properties
everybody.
you were referring to were Basketville,
Yeah.
Green Mountain Power, Green Mountain Orchards,
No, Green Mountain Orchards, I guess, is small
less than
enough.
50, is it?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what Kathleen said today.
Yeah,
Gary Scholl's, Sun Farm, which is Nick Zeider's up at Brewers.
which is where, Brewers, yeah.
Brewers.
Yeah.
And then, who was this one? CEC Solar. Is that down on River Road? Has that one been built yet?
Something community solar.
Yeah, I think that one's,
You know, that would be the other question, is how this would affect community solar rates. I mean, you know, because I don't know whether they built it into their cost structuring for those things to potentially pay a municipal
Yeah.
tax. But it doesn't sound like it's a huge amount of money, so,
no, I mean, so like between the four, it's 3,000, between these four, it's 3,700. So each one is what?
see, I mean, now Basketville, I would assume Greg could argue that his is for supporting his own business, but maybe, I mean, because he's net metered, but that certainly was his intention in putting it in, is that he was gonna basically completely offset as much of the store as he could.
Right.
So,
So right now, he is exempt under that statute being,
Right.
right. If we say no
Under
to
the
ex-
Vermont statute or under?
No, under the statute that
Under
we voted
our
on,
exemption, not, right. So,
So if we voted to rescind that,
right,
unless he's less than 50 kilowatts, he couldn't argue that point.
I doubt it.
Anyways,
I would say
because we didn't,
50, 'cause that's a
yeah,
pretty
so he would be
sizable system.
taxed.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have to, like I said, this is not an article that I'm pushing for. It's just, it was brought to me, and if you guys feel that there's too many questions still,
Who
then,
brought it to you, out of curiosity?
The listers.
The listers did, okay.
yeah.
I'm wondering if that has something to do also with, more and more companies, as they say, solar's the new Wild West, coming in from outside and getting into these things and trying this real for-profit companies.
Well, and
without-
I'm assuming that
and
Sun
that's
Farm
not
is a
really-
for-profit company, which is
I would assume
Exciter's.
so. I would
Yeah,
assume
and
so, too.
I think the thought was, and I agreed with when Kathleen came to me and talked to me
Might
about
not
this. When it may not be. When I agreed that I'm not sure people, when they voted that exemption, were thinking that would be one that they would be exempting.
Right, that's what I wonder too.
Yeah, and so I think that was it wasn't really, and I think that's why she brought it, because it was like, well, we didn't think all of these were gonna be exempt under what we voted. Should we let the voters decide again if that's okay? But it's really, the way that I have understood it, and I'm trying to get the state to give me a written determination, not just a phone call determination. The way that I have been told, all of ours, if we vote this, they all are, because they're all net metered. Like you said, they're all net metered. And that's our determining, that's what they told us to use as the factor of whether they meet the criteria to be exempt under this vote that we have in place. So I see the potential of that.
It's a .com, not a Sun Farm Vermont, which I'm assuming is what it is. Is a .com, not a .org, so I would say it's probably a for-profit, but I'm not sure.
Which, then it gets into, well, how do we figure, we don't have a guiding document other than this public service board application to tell us what it is. So, I can see the potential of this being a very confusing conversation at town meeting.
Yeah.
Not to say we couldn't get prepared before then, but I think it would get very personal as to which ones would, which ones wouldn't.
That would be my concern.
And
No, and then if you throw in that aspect of, and I understand that it's based on size, not the nature of the business, but if you throw in that aspect of supporting your own business,
Right.
i.e. Greg versus
somebody
the
selling,
two
yeah.
others, how does that play into it?
Right.
Are they then able to grieve that or not grieve it, or?
I think they can grieve the value. Yeah.
Right.
I suspect there's probably will be an argument to, that we're presenting a case against solar development,
Yeah.
and that, it precludes, say, neighborhood solar development or something along those lines. We're gonna get battered on all sides on this one.
Although, again, it's not a huge amount of money.
Again, it's not a huge amount of money, and as we know, we always argue about the small amounts of money. We managed to spend $100,000 at a blink, but we'll fight tooth and nail over $3,500
of tax money.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you're right.
The thing is, it probably is a discussion that should be had at some point anyway.
I
because-
agree. But whether we want to have it in the town meeting forum when we're
Yeah.
not particularly well informed, I don't know. I mean, like you said, we can probably be ready for it to the extent,
Well, and it's always gonna be,
Right,
we're
present
never
why
gonna be
we're presenting it.
100% ready because there's always new ones coming.
well,
Like you
right,
said, the whole Putney School question.
right.
They're an exempt property already.
Right.
So then what does, that's something that I don't,
And landmark as well. I
yeah.
don't think that's probably a 50-watt system, 50 kilowatt system, but I don't know. But,
I'm fine,
Right,
totally fine
it's,
either way. I mean, I just, if we wanna, we can always bring it up another year. We could
I
have
guess
this
I,
discussion under other business without any, obviously any action, but just to kind of talk about it.
Well, it does allow us to talk about it, so maybe it would be worth bringing up, but simply say, okay, we've presented it, we really don't have a strong opinion one way or another whether to do this, and that by not passing it, you know, we kick the can down the road, but we open the discussion. Yeah, I mean, that at least puts it out in front of the voters, and
yeah, I guess not having read the statute,
yes.
it's hard to say whether we're, I don't know how muddy that statute is to start with, as far as, being open to interpretation. So,
I will tell you, there is a little bit of disagreement between what our attorney interprets it and the state is interpreting it right now.
as far, in what respect?
Just the way that it's worded, it says, just paraphrasing, that if you're making money off of it,
Then
then it's not exempt under this statute even if the town votes. But that's not how
Who
the
reads
state's,
it that way?
our attorney.
Yeah. See, that's what I was saying earlier today about that whole, the vagary of the statutes is such that it's open to interpretation.
But
The vagary of the system too. I mean, you have months in
Intentionally.
which you're paying the power company and months in which the power company is paying you, in
Yeah.
fact.
But the directive that we have to take as far as the actual tax billing process is from Property Valuation and Review, which is the state, and the state has said, if you voted to exempt, then all of the solar arrays over 50 kilowatts that are net metered are exempt. So
Right.
that's our directive right now from the state.
So the basic question is whether we agree with that or disagree with that this year and going forward. I mean, should they be exempt? I guess personally, I feel like we're still, to me, solar is a nascent enough technology that we should be supportive of it. But are we biasing against anybody by doing that? The answer is we're biasing against the taxpayers who aren't owners of this, but the burden is pretty darn small. So how do we feel about that?
I mean, I would, throw out, utilities generally are not, the fact that you have a telephone and electricity in your house doesn't raise or lower your property value taxes, does it?
Probably. I mean, if you were,
Or maybe
off
even
the
a better
grid
example would
completely.
be, Wi-Fi ability.
Yeah.
Is your tax, are you taxable more because you have better access?
Probably not.
Than
Your
another.
resale value is
But-
better.
Right. So it's,
Yeah.
and I'm just, again, throwing out the kind of questions people are gonna ask and throw out and as sort of a comparative on it and say, Well, you know what's-
Next year?
you know what's gonna take up some time on
Well, this could be
in the
some,
morning discussion, don't we?
yeah,
Well, I mean-
this should be discussed, I think, maybe within other business, and maybe it's something to give to the Energy Committee, because, I know, but in particular, I'm suddenly blanking on his name. Morgan he's got a lot of knowledge, a lot around the whole solar
Solar
industry.
systems.
Yep. and he's sharp, he might be able to kind of dig into this.
If you can get him to
Yeah.
do it,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the Energy Committee hasn't met for 4 months, so
Yeah.
I don't think he's even in the country all that much or in town all that
Oh,
much,
right,
so.
okay.
I mean, I can certainly try, but,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no harm in putting
Mm-hmm.
this off for another,
No, the
Another year.
harm is $3,700,
Right.
which is,
Right.
when it may not
not a
even
huge-
be complete, I mean, 30, I don't.
Right, it might be right, that's it.
You know, I don't know. Yeah, because all of them would be on the tax rolls because you can't pick and choose. I don't know, it just seems. I mean, honestly, I have to tell you, the statute, I did not interpret the statute the way that the state, and I think that's why
Mhm.
when this came up at town meeting a couple years ago, we thought there were some that would be exempt under that vote and some that
That's
wouldn't.
what I
The ones
thought.
that were making money, that there would be a way to differentiate between the two, and the ones that were a for-profit money-making entity, we would be able to tax.
Mhm.
And there isn't a way to
Break that out.
break that out.
Mhm.
I
Is
think
there a
that would be,
chance?
I guess that would be my feeling, is we need to be pretty clear, you know, again, if we use Greg as an example, have to be pretty clear about how we,
Would separate that out.
yeah, I mean, if somebody is
Establish that criteria.
not producing any more power than they use within their own business, should we be taxing that? I don't know.
Right.
You know, I guess the reason I would say maybe yes is because that is an enhancement of the value of that property that is, you know, presumably you can sell a property that produces its own electricity for more than a property that doesn't, but,
Right, I mean, in effect, with power, when you buy power from the power company, that power is taxed by the state, whatever, United States or whatever they put on it. So it almost sort of behooves the state to exercise that same option over taxing solar power, and I would presume on a size, kilowattage size, and say, okay, you know, if you have an array, we're going to tax you, you know, 1 penny per
X
kilowatt.
amount, yeah.
X amount of
I mean, just
whatever,
kind
or
of,
whatnot. It's almost like we are sort of looking for a little more, you know, this is kind of a trial balloon, and we need to kind of get a little more clarity from the state on just exactly as you come to a specific situation like what we're talking about with Greg.
well, I mean, what about, I mean, if this is just, you know, talking about renewable energy, I guess this doesn't quite fit the bill, but what if I had my own small
damn.
boiler generator and I cut trees down on my property and fed that, net metered it, and I made money off the grid that way?
The thing is though, if you're a 50 kilowatt system, then, and you were doing that, then you'd have
You do.
to have state permitting, et
Right,
cetera,
right.
so that puts you in a
Or-
different category.
Or a dam, or
But-
right, micro hydro of some type.
But
you
even
know.
so, I mean, it's not, 50 kilowatt is not a micro system really, I mean, at that point, I wouldn't think, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
50
I
kilowatt's
know.
a pretty sizable system, you know, I mean, the typical household system is 5 to 8. you know,
Right,
so
no, but I mean, even if you're
it's
making,
good.
like, if you're making money, you know, if I have a 5 kilowatt system and I never
It's-
use any electricity in my house and I sell it all.
I think it's exempt, I think
It
this
is
is, I think this is renewables.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is specific, I don't
This
think
is
the
not
statute is
specific
specific to
to
solar.
solar.
No,
Right,
it absolutely
right,
isn't,
okay.
and it
Right.
actually states in the statute the different, I believe, the different types
Okay.
of, yeah. It is,
Biomass. and
yeah, it
wind
is
and
absolutely
all
not
right.
just solar, I think we're concentrating on that because
that. That's what we're
that's what we
getting.
have
Yeah.
the most of, and that's what has been exempt, is solar.
Right. What do methane digesters on farms? Are they,
I don't know.
are they taxed on that?
I don't know the answer to
I
that.
don't know either.
Then I say we kick it down the road for another year because it's gonna bring up all this sticky stuff that
Yeah.
I don't know the answers to.
I do know that we, and I don't quote me on the number of towns, we are like, it's a very small amount of towns that have voted to exempt.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, very small.
And so if we don't vote to exempt them, does that necessarily mean we're voting to tax them?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so
Because under the statute, you tax them
unless they're exempt.
they're exempt.
Okay.
It gives you the ability to tax unless,
That's,
Yeah.
but see, you said the ability to.
okay.
So we would tax
You would have
them.
to tax them, yes,
Okay.
unless it was voted to exempt, yes.
I just assume not see us tax them
I have to
sooner
say-
rather than later without the state being
Yeah.
more clear about it, but.
I would have to agree with you.
Yeah.
Which we can wait another year. I can almost guarantee there's not ever gonna be a lot of clarity. Because I'll tell you that I've talked to 3 different people up there. We talked with 3 people the day we sat in there, and it was just a confusing mess depending on who you talk to. We finally got Doug Lay to give, he was, you know, going up the ladder a little bit, finally to say, if it says net metering and you voted to exempt, they're exempt. So that meant everybody on our list. And so that's where we've been. That's not what we understood.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've been going, but there's this other layer of our attorney not quite reading the statute that way.
Right.
Which maybe we could clear up in the next year. And the other thing is that it may take some case law. You
I
know?
also feel, you know, it's potentially a little bit unfair to burden those who were voted to be exempted to have a reasonable argument for themselves at town meeting 5 weeks from now. You know, I think that if we're going to explore this, we probably ought to be having some sort of a public meeting about it, you know, 6 months in advance of a vote, so that they can do their
right.
homework on it and.
Present their case.
So let's, oh, go ahead.
One just quick question. Is there ever the possibility of grandfathering people in?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I can explore it, but I think we're voting on what the statute says.
Yes, okay, yeah.
So I don't think that the statute says, you know, and I don't know if we have the ability, I don't think we have the ability to vote something that goes
Sort of
beyond what the
unfair.
statute.
That's what I was gonna
yeah.
say. I mean, could we have an ordinance that established the tax rate on certain things or not? I don't know about the legalities of that. I have no idea.
So we're gonna,
So let's nix it,
okay,
right? Everybody?
Yes.
I would agree.
Just sit
Did you
this
say an hour?
3 hours of town meeting. But that's not why we're doing it. We're just doing,
Will allow
We're
us
doing
to
it 'cause
get
we're
to
not
some other
informed
important business,
I mean, I just think, you know, I mean, it would sort of be like the tax exempt
I agree.
discussion last year of, you know, I mean, people start firing off questions, and if we're sitting up there saying, I don't know, then
Right.
it's not fair to vote on something.
well, and I
Yeah.
think you're right, I think when if we get more serious about this in the next 6 months before town meeting again, you know, sit down and have a conversation with these people too.
Exactly.
You know, what
No,
was
that's
your
what I'm
understanding?
saying.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
more
It may not
clarity
even be
for
just a
everyone.
public, you know, maybe not
Yeah.
even a public meeting, but just sit down and say, what was your,
I also think
Yeah.
that this would be, you know, potentially going forward, this would be a good thing for that tax exempt committee to
Yeah.
explore, you
Yeah.
know? I
Right.
mean,
and it did come up in that tax exempt
I'm sure
committee
it did.
discussion
Yeah.
already, so that may be the next, you know, they
Next charge,
organize, so that
exactly.
may be their
Yeah.
next charge. Okay, well, that's good, I'm okay with that. The next one we went over, that was the town, notice of availability of the annual
Right.
auditor's report.
Mhm.
The only other thing that I did, well, I added to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to spend up to 25,000 from capital reserve for necessary town hall repairs. That was what we had decided at the last meeting. And then I put in the numbers of the budgets for Article 13 and 14. So other than that, nothing else has changed. There are articles on there that are school articles, they were voted on last night, so the school articles.
this morning. Thanks.
Yeah, this morning.
So those are on there.
so those are, I see what you're saying. I'll make a motion that we approve the warning for the 2016 town meeting as presented, with the exception of Article 5.
I will second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
You have a copy you want us to sign?
I do, I have a signature page. The only other thing I wanted to mention, it won't be an article, but we should, let's not forget to talk about the donated land at town meeting.
Yes.
Under other business. I
Yeah.
kind of forgot about that a little bit. I mean, there wasn't any article that we needed for that, and we don't have any even thoughts or decisions, right?
Right. Affordable Housing Committee, possible appointment.
So in the packet, there is an email from Kelly McCullough.
Kellen.
Oh, Kellen, sorry. The first thing I want to do is kind of go over the amount of people that are on the committee. So I did a little research. I didn't really understand the progression of this committee. And so I did the research back to when the original committee was formed, which was the BACLT Advisory Committee, which was the basket bill. And at that point, there were 13 members appointed to that committee. When all of that basket bill stuff went on, and if you guys remember something that I'm missing, let me know.
Let's put it, 13 people on that committee was far too many.
Yeah, okay, so that might help in this decision-making process. So then in around 2009, there was a discussion of the Affordable Housing Committee, and it was suggested at one point to have it be like a 7 to 9 member board.
That's what I remembered, yeah.
Oh, 6 to 9 members. But when the appointments were made, there were 10 people interested, so all 10 were appointed. That is the number that we've been carrying, is 10.
And how many are currently on it?
11.
Because we just did,
Yeah,
because of Katie.
yeah. So when Eva was appointed, I mistakenly thought she was I thought she was part of the original 10.
She was.
Right, but somebody must have taken her place and I didn't know that. So she asked to be appointed again, which filled,
Jim's gone.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Francis, Mal. I don't think Mal was on originally. I'm almost sure Mal was not. Otherwise, everybody else was. Could be wrong. She might have been, but I don't think she was.
So maybe when Eva left, Mal was appointed?
Might be. I'm not sure. Did Eva? I'm not sure she officially left or whether she just. I can't remember exactly how.
Well, I didn't think she
Anyway.
had really, I don't know. Anyways,
Right.
so now we've ended up with 11.
Are they all interested in staying on?
Yes,
Yeah,
all
okay.
of them.
Mhm.
So Katie, so now we have 11.
Shocking that we have a committee that.
Can we,
Well, I
our
think
problem
that,
is.
can we slide some of them into
I think
Exactly.
probably this is why I guess it was like
Dartboard.
people were interested and I was
Right.
like, oh, well,
I
you
mean,
know,
I
so
guess for
it.
I didn't do enough
The committee
research to
itself, if
really.
they're going to make any kind of decision, can, set up what constitutes a quorum for them, and say, you know, at a minimum, we have to have 7 members here in order to take a vote or something.
We tend to
like
get pretty darn good
that.
turnout.
But you
for
get a
these
good, if you
meetings,
get a
too.
good
It's
turnout, then you-
But the question is now, do
Yeah.
we have room for this person?
Well, she left a message
Yeah.
for me, as she said. I didn't reach her, but I left a message for her saying that I didn't know whether she had been in touch.
Yes.
I can't remember exactly how I worded it, but I also said she's more than welcome to come to meetings,
Yeah.
that these are open meetings and,
Yeah.
you know.
I
if she
emailed
wants
her
to,
today
so.
and told her exactly what I just told you guys, that this is the progression of how this committee was formed, that, you know, I personally don't like an even number committee, that just seems weird to me.
well, right, I mean.
But, so we now have 11, so now we either need to keep it at 11 or we should jump to 13. And because then it keeps it an odd number. She emailed me back and said she totally understands if, you know, if 11 is the number and, you know, but just let her know, you know, and
I think we should find out if Mal, do
she
you,
called me,
Mal?
Yeah.
And she wants to be on it?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I certainly don't want to discourage somebody, you know.
I know.
Somebody with a new voice, you know, to enter into the fray there.
yeah, I know, and that's the tricky thing is that you,
Is there a way that you, I mean, I suppose the committee could have alternative, you know, alternate voters, you know, that.
do you do any
I mean,
voting,
right, you
or
probably
is it
don't
just
do
really
any very much
discussion?
I don't think we've
to begin with.
I don't think we've ever done a vote on it.
So it's
That's
sort
what
of-
I can think of, but,
You know.
I can certainly imagine a situation where, you know, when the Windsor asks for, you know,
A
our
consensus of it,
endorsement,
yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
and, you know.
If
would
you
we
get
get
5
it?
and 5, then it's like, ooh.
Um,
So
you know, the other thing maybe we do is encourage her to come to that first meeting, and then we can talk about it as a committee.
right, and there may be somebody that on the committee now
Who
that
would be just
that,
That is
stepping
willing
up.
that would
to-
be like, look,
right.
you know what? If we have
Yeah.
interested people, I'm
Exactly.
The other thing is, I think, you know, when they're in session, I don't think Mike tends to
Yeah.
show up. I mean, he tends to be at most meetings, but
Yeah.
if they're in session.
So
probably
I will
not.
tell
So-
her that she hasn't been appointed,
Officially,
but that we
but
would
she-
really like her to come to that first meeting
Yeah.
and meet everybody and, you know, maybe in the meantime, like you said, if Mike doesn't come a lot, we want him to come when he can.
Right.
But maybe he would say, well, okay, I don't need to be a official committee member, but I don't know. I mean,
Something along those
Or
lines.
as you said, maybe somebody
Okay.
else that's on the committee currently is.
Yeah, somebody might be like, oh, we've got all this interest, okay, well, I don't know, I mean, it's, okay, because right now it's at 11, and like you said, 13's a lot.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, okay.
Make for long meetings, I bet.
Okay, so I'll
They were
email her
interesting.
tomorrow, I'll have her come in and talk to me when she's out of town right now, I'll have her come in and talk to me too when she gets back, just so, I mean, I want her to make sure she really feels welcome to
Yeah.
come.
No, I think we
and
should just
yeah.
reinforce, please come to
Yeah.
that meeting. you know.
Okay.
Town of Putney land on Taylor Road. One of the two different ones.
Yeah.
I know the staple's in a weird spot. The copier does. Staples in that weird spot. So I had someone come in the other day, the property that's labeled Miller. I don't know how to say that.
Me and Mom, my mom.
That property has sold, and there is a couple that's gonna be building a house on that property. This is Pine Banks Road over here, South Pine Banks. The other map shows it a little bit.
This, just on the edge of that sign?
No,
Oh.
look at the other map is kind of more, this is the property,
see.
the one that's
Okay.
highlighted
Yeah,
over here in the middle.
Yeah.
See the one that's outlined?
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So that's the property I'm talking about. So the property next to it that is on Pine Banks Road, they're gonna be building a house. So this woman came in the other day and she wanted to know who owned the property on the back side of them, because there was like a 4-wheeler trail or something and they wanted to maybe use it and have access. And I said, oh, I don't know, I'll find out. Well, it happens to be the town of Putney owns that property. It was purchased at tax sale back in 2002.
Yes.
Is this ringing a bell? I had no idea that we owned a property there. It's actually, our actual legal right of way is off of Taylor Road,
Right.
that front
Yep.
drawing, I kind of
Yeah.
drew in a weird road there.
Mhm.
My question is, would you guys be okay with me pursuing,
Selling it.
selling it? Right now, we get nothing, no taxes for it. It's on
How
our.
big is it?
It is 2.3 acres. It's on our grand list right now for a value of 53,000, 53,800. I don't know how long ago. I don't even know if the assessors actually went out there during the reappraisal to look at that property. I called Tom today. He said that he doesn't even know. He knows that this access goes up to as far as Butler's, but he doesn't even remember seeing another. So I don't know if it's all grown in or.
Right.
So my thought was to possibly figure out a price and see if the people that purchased this property.
Right, I'm interested in it, right?
That property is the
Yeah.
one that they purchased, right?
Yeah,
And they have good access from.
Yeah.
So.
yeah.
Um,
I don't see.
We would have to offer
We'd
it
have
on
to-
the open market,
yeah, we'd have to
obviously.
advertise it, yeah.
So,
But I mean, I can imagine that I have no idea what their position on it would be at all, but it seems silly to have it just sit there. I think that at one point, this property next to it, we owned as well, and the guy that bought that, we thought maybe was gonna buy the other one too, and that never happened, because there was a purchase and sale agreement in here.
so who is that? Then? Is that,
I
do you know?
can't remember what his name is. It's probably not something that I will do in the next few weeks, but thought maybe,
Yeah, I think it would be worth exploring. I mean,
I can't see any other use.
But it's not a very large piece for any kind of conservation efforts.
and it's landlocked by the.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I
It's
think
not-
if somebody wants to purchase it.
Okay.
Can you maintain mineral rights or?
Yeah.
I suppose you can write anything into it. Okay, so I will work on that over the next few months, to see what we can do.
Out of curiosity, what do the dotted lines mean between these properties?
It's contiguous ownership, so they're separate
Separate
lots, but
lots.
the
Separate
same
lots,
person
same
owns it, yeah.
ownership.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
I can do that.
town manager report.
I don't have anything.
Oh, all right,
I don't have a budget status report either.
too bad.
Warrants. Anita wasn't here today, so I'm not sure. Let me just check to see if she has warrants. It's in there, but- Do you want that?
Gone here.
That would be a little thick.
Probably not a Sharpie.
Boy, you got chilly.
It did
Oh,
drop.
it's just-
Yeah, I know. First thing, like 9 o'clock this morning, it's like, wow.
I couldn't believe
It's
it.
like sugaring season.
Well, it's still
And then
pretty,
it,
pretty balmy.
yeah, it is. No, but it really felt spring-like for a
I'm
little
not
while.
properly dressed for what's happened. No, there's a lot of people putting taps in.
Yeah.
Losing.
Yeah, well, although it's, you know, it's almost February. So.
Yeah, that's, well, that's true, yeah. But, I'm gonna say up in the Burlington area, they were, SAP was running in December, when they were collecting it. Do you have any other business?
I don't think so. We did meet with Landmark today. Josh came, Nancy Olson was there, and we just discussed with them what we found out on the tax exempt committee.
And one of, I think, the only thing I would say from that I voiced, Peter Eden asked whether there was sort of a general sense that the town was going to be looking to revisit Landmark's tax exempt status, and I said, to my knowledge, no. I said that, you know, I spoke for myself, but said, I don't get the feeling from the select board that we're looking to change their tax exempt status. I think that we will, you know, as properties are purchased, depending on their usage, we will be exploring how that fits into our current tax exempt stuff as we sort of continue to learn to understand it. But I don't think we're looking to go head to head with them about being a tax exempt entity. So
Addressing the principle of education,
yeah.
tax exemption.
And other than that,
No, I thought it was a good meeting, and I think that, you know, it was good to date them, and the same thing will be discussed at town meeting. We'll do it under other, you know, other business. I think Nancy will probably give a report to the town at that time of what the committee has come up with. I thought it was good. Other than that, I don't have any other.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
No, we need an executive session.
Oh,
Sorry, I know you
Motion to go
guys,
into executive session?
and it's for a legal,
Second.
it's a legal matter,
That's what I meant to say.
and no decisions will be made.
6:20, all in favor?
Aye.
No decision will be made, and,
I did have on here set next meeting date, February 10th,
oh, yeah.
and I said possible change to date, but that was because my daughter's state banner was gonna be going up at the school, and I didn't wanna miss it, but that is not happening.
February 10th is just the next, that's
The next regular,
2 weeks
yeah.
from today.
Yeah,
Apparently
actually,
Steve might have a conflict.
yeah, there was something, I can't remember, does this affect? Yeah. I'm supposed to be in Montpelier.
Oh, is that the local government day?
Well,
Are you going
it's-
for that?
No, it's a farm, it's
Oh.
the big statewide farm to school
Okay.
initiative thing. We got quite a grant for
Yeah.
it, and so,
Do you wanna just still
we
keep the
can-
meeting date and the two of you meet?
We can probably handle it. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah.
I mean, unless that's gonna be heartbreaking for you, Scott. I mean, Steve, sorry,
Alright, so we'll keep the February
You take
10th, I
care.
don't even know how much will be,
on there.
no, the February 24th one is gonna be a public hearing about the bridge up here. They're gonna be doing some bridge work at,
Right here.
right
right.
here.
Yeah.
So V-Trans is coming down to do, so that one would be,
Mhm.
that's the 24th, but we'll go with the 10th.
Sounds good.
Alright.
If you're back, you're back. If you're not,
Mhm.
we'll handle it. Good.
We're in executive session now, I know it was a little weird, we went from one to